In addition, we're going to have a special meeting prior to the committee meetings that will follow, and that's to deal with a couple of items that relate to our new budget. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Anne Marie, and you can give us the explanation and what we need to do.
All right, Mayor. Well, the council has, of course, received the budget, and the Finance Committee met last week to review the budget and asked a number of questions, which we provided answers to in a report that was distributed late yesterday afternoon or early yesterday evening. And if you want, Mayor, I can just kind of run through what those questions and answers were.
Yeah, that would be good since they were raised by the councilman.
Councilman Biggs questioned, and this was a good question, why was there a large increase in police revenue from fiscal year 2017-18 to the current year? There was about an $8,000 or $11,000 increase in revenue. And Virginia went back and looked and found that the police department was issued a refund, or a credit was issued, and this was part of the package deal when we purchased all of the furniture that went into the new PD, and that refund was credited to that line item. So we'll have to make an adjustment for that because that's a one-time credit, and so going forward for FY 18-19, I'm sorry, for 19-20 budget, we would recommend reducing the revenue in that police revenue account from $11,000 down to $3,000, and then recommend, so that leaves an $8,000 shortfall, and we would recommend increasing the sales tax line item as well as the utility franchise tax by $4,000 each. So you'd make up for that $8,000. Also, Councilman questioned the miscellaneous revenue line item that we had received $17,000 in this fiscal year as compared to $5,000 in the previous year. And Virginia reported that we had received a insurance payment for damage to property, and that was credited to that account. Cemetery maintenance, there was quite a bit of discussion and thoughtful discussion amongst the Finance Committee about the long-term future of the town's cemeteries, and also short-term asked us to look at obtaining proposals from contractors to provide mowing and maintenance service as a way to compare, the amount of labor and expense that the town is putting forth. And Corey has already reached out to contractors, and nobody can talk with him about a proposal until this mowing season ends, which we certainly understand, but our goal is to give the council a report back in the winter of what a plan of action or plan of consideration could be looking ahead to the spring of 2020. Councilman Biggs also questioned in the general fund, because we have vacancies in the police department with police officer positions, could we freeze vacant positions as a way to save revenue? And we did go back and check our notes and confirm that we did freeze or reduce funding for one of the officer positions who'll be deployed for a year of military service. So we'll have to remember, Virginia, next year to try, add that back. But we did use that as a way to help avoid any revenue, having to obtain revenue from other sources by the town. And then a lot of discussion took place about what to do with the water rates. The mayor asked what would be the impact on town ratepayers if we were to implement a portion of the rate increase that you will have to implement in 21, in fiscal year 21. And so over the weekend we sent you the report on that. When the first debt service payment comes due, that will pay for the upgrades to the 2 water treatment plants. We anticipate that our residential customers' water rates will be increased by about $2.75 a month. And so the question was, what if you went ahead and tried to soften that blow by, in the upcoming year, raise rates by half of that, increase people's water rates by $1.35 this year, this coming year, and then by a like amount in the second year. That's certainly an option for you all to consider. So Mayor, that was, I think those were the highlights of the questions that were raised at the meeting. As I said, you've conducted the public hearing, so tonight council can deliberate and hopefully you'll come to consensus and want to adopt. We need to let the tax supervisor know tonight what the tax rate is going to be because the county's anxious to get the software working to generate the tax bills that will go out after July 1.
In the budget, how did you factor in the water and sewer rates?
I projected no increase for the coming
20,
year.
Yeah, okay. So, in my opinion, then, we should take care of the water and sewer rate question first. We get that finalized for budget purposes, and then talk about the budget itself. So, having had that explanation and being here for the Finance Committee review of the budget, does anybody care to express a preference for how we handle the increase? I got my own opinion, but I'll listen.
Personally, I like the softening approach. You know, half this year, the other half next year.
Any other thoughts?
I agree with that.
Well, I'll voice my opinion, which is not that.
Well, it's sort of a catch-22,
Yeah,
really,
it is.
We'll
because
pay it anyway.
you
See me
do
now,
half
see.
of it this year and half of it next year. That's 2 raises in a row.
Well, here's my rationale, and that is that if you take half in the coming year, the ratepayers will be paying for the same old water that we're getting ready to improve the following year. So you're paying new money for the water you've been getting all along. And then secondly, from my own experience owning another home over on the Outer Banks, they were going to do beach renourishment last year. So all the financing was, the municipality went ahead and levied the tax that property owners were going to have to pay for that, and it didn't happen. But they took our money anyway. And so it was a year later before the project was started because it was a 3-part finance package between municipality, county, no, 4-part. No, county, state, and federal funds were involved with the project, and they didn't get all those ducks lined up, and a year went by. So anyway, but I guess my overriding opinion has to do with I personally don't care to pay for something that hadn't been improved yet. But anyway, I'll hush and y'all can debate. Or we can bring forward a motion as to what your preference is going to be and go ahead and vote. Unless anybody has any further thoughts.
Are you looking for a
I'll take
motion?
one, yeah.
I move we split the rate.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to split the rates over a 2-year period. Any further questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
That's 1, 2. 2 opposed, 3 in favor? Is that the count? Okay, the motion carries.
And Mayor, if I could, I was
Yeah.
going to jump in, but I don't have heartburn about it really either
Yeah.
way, but I kind of like you, I didn't like the idea of paying for something that we won't get until next year. and God knows anything in government can happen in a year. So that was my reason for voting that.
Okay. All right.
Well, we're talking about the same amount of money
Yeah.
either way. So
Yeah.
I'm like you, I don't have a heartburn either way, really.
So you're gonna make, that would be another adjustment, right?
Yes, we'll make
She'll
that
have to make-
adjustment as part of the
Oh,
budget.
this year.
The
You'll have-
revenue.
Okay. So when we get the motion for discussion on the budget itself, we'll note that as a change that will be part of it, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, good. So now, that having been dealt with, we'll go back to the budget ordinance itself. And the chair would entertain a motion that we accept the budget with the explanations that have been made by Anne Marie relative to the questions raised during the discussion of the Finance Committee meeting, and also with the change that will need to be made to reflect the gradual increase of the water rates over the next 2 years.
So moved.
All right. So I have a motion and a second to that effect. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Okay, very good.
I want to thank Virginia
Yeah.
Smith for all her work putting this together. And Anne Marie too. Okay.
Yeah.
Without her leadership, I think we would be in trouble.
Well, it was, I think the picture that was present at the Finance Committee meeting says it all. All the department heads were present. Everybody was there to make comments that needed to or wanted to, and so therefore I think it got a good vetting by both the staff and the elected council members. So, very good. All right. I got to find where I was. Here we go. All right, we're taking care of item A. Now, item B, please, ma'am, which is another amendment relative to the solar farm in the airport.
Yes, sir. The council will recall that last year you approved an interconnection agreement with the solar farm out in the southern part of the county. And part of that agreement called for the developer to prepay the town what the estimated costs would be for us to improve our system so as to be able to wheel the power generated from the solar farm to the substation. And thanks to Bud Powell's leadership, that project has successfully been completed on our end, and we have finalized the expenses, and we've held back about $4,000 in engineering fees. Was it $5,000 in engineering fees, because I think there's one or two more inspections that have to be made. But the bottom line is that the developer is owed $64,000 that the town did not incur in expenses. So with this budget amendment, if you approve that, we'll show that the total cost of the project was $381,639. And then also, the amendment would authorize us to return that $64,442 to the developer. So that's one amendment, Mayor. And then the second amendment has to do with the airport, and we are asking to, God bless you, to recognize an increase in the sale of jet fuel. So you're going to increase that revenue line item, but then we also need to increase salaries and wages on the expense side. I think we under budgeted some salary and expenses on the expense side. So that $9,100 that we've recognized that was over what we budgeted in the revenue, that will help us make up for where we under budgeted on the salary, FICA, and credit card fee side.
Okay, any questions regarding that report?
So O2EMC doesn't just donate that $64,000 to
Yeah,
I mean, we've been really nice to them.
yeah.
We have, I'll tell you, but they have had a really difficult time contractually working things out, so.
Well, another way to spin that is that we are so efficient and cost conscious that we never spend the money that's allocated to us for a project, so we return it to the general fund for other uses.
Is this the first time we've worked with this company?
Yes.
Okay, all right, should we handle these as separate items as far as voting? Probably?
Probably, yes.
Okay. All right, with those explanations relative to the budget amendment request, Chair would entertain a motion to refund the solar farm overpayment back to the developer.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to do so. Further questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? All right. And then the airport fuel adjustment vis-a-vis wages.
So
Thank you.
Second?
Have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Very good. All right, that concludes our special meeting agenda. Now we can get down to our committee meetings. We'll have 3 this evening. We'll start rather with administrative, and that's chaired by Councilman Biggs. Please, sir.
All right, Mayor, we have 2 items on the agenda tonight that should be fairly easy. One of them is the requirement that the town, if we're going to participate in the NC Lead Fellowship Program, that we have to amend our personnel policy and create a definition for a temporary fellow. We've all agreed that we want the fellowship program here, and already have a person that's been appointed to us. So if you're good with that, and Councilman Bond, you're good with it, we will send that right on.
That's kind of humorous, because it's kind of like when we sent you to the league meeting and hadn't passed your expenses.
We were
I was
considering
She's already got an
making
appointment. We're going to figure out a way to approve it at our next meeting. I love it. A little lag, but we'll get it done. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not a problem. And next on the agenda for us is the fire prevention promotion campaign, and Chief Bass is going to give us a quick update on that. Chief, come on up.
Mayor and Council, thank you for letting me come before you tonight. Just a little bit about this program that's been done by UL Underwriters Laboratories. They've done some research, and they're promoting close before you doze. I showed this, there's a video at the very end of it that we'll get to. All right, this is a recent consumer survey done by UL. 3,200 people were asked across the United States, and less than half of those believe that in the event of a fire, it's safe to have their bedroom door closed. Of those people, only 29% believe it's safer and they actually slept with their door closed. And 17% of those people did so because they think it's safer in a fire. Of those who slept with the door open for safety reasons, 52% of those did so because they mistakenly think it's safer in a fire. You know, a lot of times we go out in the community and we put up smoke detectors, and we talk to people about exit drills in the homes, how to get out of certain areas, and make sure you have 2 ways out of every room. But they come out saying that closing your door at night is a simple and quick routine that everyone can adopt. So today, closing doors is more important than ever. Our home furniture changed so much over since 1980s to now. Most of us remember in the 80s that a lot of the furniture we've had cotton in it. Now we've got synthetics and polyesters made in it. They burn so much faster and so much hotter than what they used to. And our homes have gotten bigger, and they've gotten more hallways, and they got more upstairs that the windows don't open sometimes and everything. So it's really changed, and our construction over the last 40 years has reduced the time to escape a home fire from 17 minutes to 3 minutes or less. So this is very important to get out to people that, you know, smoke detectors are helping, but also closing your door at night is going to be a big help. And once we get to the video, you can see why. A September 2018 report by National Fire Protection concluded that residents are more likely to die in a home fire today than they did in 1990.
That's scary.
As of June 8th, in North Carolina, we've had 57 fire deaths. I received an email today from the State Fire Marshal's office. That now has gone to 63 people as of today. So we've had 5 deaths in the last couple weeks here in North Carolina in fires. And most of that fire deaths were where there was no working smoke detector, whether the battery's gone bad or they've done something to it to take it out of service. And 2018 was our worst year in North Carolina. We had 135 people who lost their lives due to fire. The National Fire Protection states that 3 out of every home fire, 5 home fires in homes across the nation have no working smoke detector in the house. So we really pushed this hard the last few months. We've gone out and probably put about 80 smoke detectors in Edenton and Chowan County in the last couple months. So we're really pushing it out to get the people to let us know if they don't have smoke detectors. But that's one thing they can do. But there's a short video here. Let me see if I can get it.
Chief, those batteries, they last about 5 years. Is that?
The new ones last 10 years.
10 years.
They're lithium batteries, and once you get done, you just throw the smoke detector away and put a new one up. They're recommended after 10 years, if they're out of 10-year service, to throw them away. Some are still using 9-volt batteries, but the new ones are using lithium batteries. that last 10
Lithium
years.
is pretty safe.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they're not hardwired to the house, right?
Not a lot of them. There's some are that are hardwired. Newer homes now, by the building code, have to be hardwired in the house, and all of them go off at the same time. But this is just a short 5.5 minute video. It's very good, and it really explains what goes on.
Chief, I didn't set up the speakers for you.
Hey, did you hear fire is getting faster because of modern materials, construction, and furniture?
Yeah, close your bedroom door at night and take heed. It helps to slow a fire's speed.
Hey, did you hear fire is getting faster because of modern materials, construction, and furniture?
Yeah, close your bedroom door at night and take heed. It helps to slow a fire's speed. So, close your bedroom door at night, just in case the house ignites. It helps to slow a fire's speed. Buys the minutes that you need. If you can get out, you gotta get out. Shut your door on the way out. It makes the fires grow real tough, and that can save your favorite stuff. If no exit's clear to you, well then move on to your plan two. Shut a door if you get stuck, to buy more time for fire trucks. Close your bedroom door at night, just in case the house ignites. It helps to slow a fire speed. Buys
Let's see if he gets to the main video. We got internet? Would be on?
Yes.
That is insane.
In the event of a fire, who here thinks that you're safer sleeping with the doors open?
There you go.
I keep them open because I was a mom for so long. My kid's room is 2 doors down from mine, always open.
I'm not all that confident they would stop anything anyway. Harold, hey, Ben, nice to meet you. Harold, have a seat.
Hi. Hello, I'm right here.
Chris, how are you?
Great.
As you think about fire safety, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned. I probably don't think about a fire threat as much as I should, because I do forget to turn things off often.
Have you ever been through one?
A fire? No.
We told you that you'd be coming here today for discussion, but what we didn't tell you is that there is also a demonstration that we want to show you. Sound good?
I want to introduce you to Steve, the director of the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute. I'll let Steve take it away. Welcome. My job is to lead a team of people that study how fire grows and spreads so we can keep you safe. Here at the Delaware County Emergency Services Training Center, we essentially turn this place into a laboratory. We've got several structures around here that we build to simulate where you live. And one of those structures is right here behind me. What I want you to do is I want to take you inside here, and I want you to see how this looks like your home. And then once we get you outside, we're going to go ahead and recreate what would happen if there was a fire in this structure right here. Look pretty normal? Yeah, got some furnishings. You'll notice the difference down here as we walk down. This bedroom door will be closed, and the one at the end of the hall will be open. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the comparison of the two of those and think about you and your family trying to survive this fire. All right, we just hit the button. We have ignition.
Oh boy, there she goes. Oh man, that is scary. It's scary, right? Look, we have smoke coming out over here, right?
What a lot of people don't realize is that the furnishings that are in our homes today are made of synthetic materials. So they burn so much faster than your old natural cotton-filled furnishings used to be. The statistics that we've seen through our research is in about 40 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to get out of your house after the smoke alarm sounded. Now you have less than 3 minutes.
Okay, see, this is the things that we were.
That is scary.
Whoa. Can you feel that? How can you survive that? Seriously. That is insane.
All right, go ahead, knock it down. All right, as you remember, closed door on the left, open door on the right. And you can see the dramatic difference between the two with the simple closed door. We want people to be as prepared as possible and understand the importance and how little time you have and what that simple barrier can provide to you and your family should you have a fire. I want you guys to throw some hard hats on and some safety glasses and at least poke your heads in the windows, or you can even walk in the hallway if you want.
Give me a word or phrase to describe what you just saw.
Anxiety. Frightening.
Terrifying.
I really didn't expect anything like this.
Now I ask you one last time, in the event of a fire, are you safer sleeping with the doors open or with the doors closed?
Without a doubt, the door closed.
Definitely with the doors closed, and from now on, the doors will be shut at night.
Definitely closed.
Closed.
Definitely closed. And I'm surprised by it.
It's always great to be able to get the message out, where we can take our research and get it out into the community to change behavior with the message of close before you doze. It feels great, and hopefully we can save lives.
If there was one bit of advice that you could give friends or family today, what would it be?
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. The key fire safety messages we want people to have are, one, have working smoke alarms in every level of your home, inside and outside every sleeping room. We want everybody to have an escape plan. Should you have a fire, you should know how to get out quickly. And if you can't get out quickly, having a closed door between you and where that fire is critical to your survival.
So you can see that having that rule makes a big difference as far as being able to get out of a house if there was a fire. The people in that, if there would have been somebody in that back bedroom, they probably would have survived it. They probably would have fell asleep during the night, and carbon monoxide would have most likely taken their life. Folks don't understand it's not the fire that kills most of the people we have, it's the smoke. Because of the fire gases and the type of gases that we have in there, carbon monoxide is the main killer. It's a silent killer. No taste, no smell, you just fall asleep and you just go to sleep and you won't never wake up. So that's why we can ask people now to make sure you have a working carbon monoxide detector in your home as well as smoke detectors. So it makes a big difference and it gives you that extra time to get out, and hopefully we can get there in that short time to get you out. But you can see that those rooms go up pretty quick now with the furnaces that we have.
Well, thank you much for bringing that to our attention. As I've said 1,000 times before, there's nothing more important that we do up here than to keep the people of Edenton safe. That's number one on our list and should be. Mayor, that is all that the administrative committee has tonight.
Thank you very much, and indeed it was a shockingly informative video. One question, Chief. If the person in the room where the door was closed opened it to try to get out, does that create one of those backdrafts?
It depends on how much heat and fire has been in the building. More than likely, we teach people to check the door before they open it. If the door is hot, to go to a window to exit the house. Or if it's cool to touch, you open it slowly and look and see if there's any smoke in the hallway. And if there's any smoke in the hallway, we want you to shut the door slowly, because if you slam it shut, it pulls air. That pulls that smoke back down to the door and lessens the time you can get out.
Yes, sir.
Years ago, there was a lot of conversation trying to get people not to smoke in bed. I would be interested in this context, what the current research shows about people smoking in bed and fires resulting from that. The common thing was matches of cigarettes are usually not out. They smolder quietly while people sleep, and you end up with a lot of heartache because of smoking in bed. So, in the context of what we've just seen, I wonder what research shows on that behavior.
You have access to that, right, Chief?
I can get it, yes, sir.
Okay, you want to stop by and visit with the Chief? Maybe he can pull it up for you. We don't have it up here. All right.
That's it.
Next committee meeting, Public Works, chaired by Councilman Stallings, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 4 items on the agenda for tonight, and the first one is the Harbor Towns Ferry Project, and I believe Ms. Knighton took a trip on the passenger ferry some time ago, and she's going to give us a report on that.
Nancy Nichols and I had the tough assignment.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Go to Hatteras, spend the night so that we could get up early and catch the 8:30 ferry. And it was an eye-opening experience.
Somebody had to do it, right?
Somebody had to do it. So Nancy helped me with photos and an outline of this project. The council knows that we've been meeting as part of the Harbor Town Projects Advisory Board. The town of Edenton, Hartford, Elizabeth City, Columbia, and then the counties, Chowan, Paquimins, Pasquotank, and Terrell, have been meeting monthly and working on identifying resources, support, opportunities for the project. A lot of time is being spent inventorying the current conditions of the harbor towns and what improvements would need to be made in order for the ferry system the passenger ferry system to work there. Invitations have been or are being sent to Manio and Dare County as well to participate. And our work is being supported primarily by the professor, Nick Didow, who many of you have met over the years. He's with the UNC Keenan Flagler Business School and has been working on this concept for many, many years. But we feel like kind of that old saying where the stars are aligned with our new legislator, our House member, being a former director of the North Carolina Ferry Division, who had, as soon as he started working for the Ferry Division, had begun studying and analyzing the feasibility of establishing some sort of ferry system between the Inner Banks, Albemarle Sound communities. So the field trip took place last week, and Hatteras is buzzing about this new high-speed passenger ferry boat. It seats, Nancy, about 150 passengers. They had to make very modest improvements at the Hatteras terminal. You can see the walkway, the handicap accessible walkway. They built kind of they call it a passenger waiting area. It's right next door to the actual terminal where you go inside and buy your tickets. There's restroom and vending machines inside. And then outside you can sit and wait because you don't want to miss the boat. You got to be there, right when they blow the horn and start collecting tickets. But it was very comfortable, with the roof. You're out of the sun, the open air. You still get to look at the ocean, and you get to see the vehicle, the traditional ferry load up, and people driving their vehicles onto the ferry. But it's very pleasant and accommodating. And certainly, if we were to be successful in obtaining funding to get the ferry to come and serve our region and our town, we feel like it would be real easy for us to construct some sort of holding facility like this for passengers to wait so that they could board. Here's a picture of, we had a really good turnout. We had representatives from Hartford, representatives from Plymouth, from Washington County, Terrell County, Nancy and myself. Trying to think if we left anybody else out. And Paquimins, yes.
Elizabeth City didn't send anyone.
No, Elizabeth City and Pasquotank are not present. Oh, I'm sorry, Peter Thompson was there from Elizabeth City. This is a picture of what the boat looks like itself. We wanted you to see the big screen TV because one of our initiatives, the Division of Tourism, has put together a partnership program where communities can do short videos promoting their towns for visitation. and it's not up and running yet, but we are definitely going to participate in that. The ferry itself was it was luxurious. It was comfortable. The seats were spacious, and I wish I had gotten a good picture to show you. The windows are from the ceiling to the floor. And Nancy and I were sitting on kind of the interior section of the boat. We didn't want to take the great water view seats. We left those for the real tourists, the real visitors. But even from where we were sitting, we could look out and see the ocean. And especially seeing this window that goes from floor to ceiling was wonderful. And the kids loved it. They were enjoying the view. The ferry is set up. We didn't get a picture of, there's a concession stand right now where they sell nabs and water and bagels in the morning. But there is legislation in the bill to modernize the ABC system in North Carolina that would allow for, under certain circumstances, alcohol to be sold on the passenger ferry boat. I wanted you to see this picture of our representative, and Nick is beside Representative Goodwin, and then Peter Thompson from Elizabeth City, and Bonnie Saunders from Roper. They're really the brains behind the concept, and we were really happy. You know, this was kind of like a dream for the representative to see this passenger. I mean, he advocated for that, and for that, for the passenger ferries to be ordered and purchased, and the other ones are on their way. They're a little bit behind schedule, but it really is a great thing, and I think it's going to be great for the Dare County economy, and it is an opportunity for us to learn from their experiences. When we arrived at Ocracoke, we were greeted by this tram, which is operated by a private vendor. I believe the county actually owns the trams. They got grant funding to purchase them, and then they sent out proposals to businesses to operate the trams. And we had the privilege of riding with the owner of the business, who was a terrific entrepreneur, and also the former county manager from Hyde County, who just retired. I did not realize that he retired. So Bill Rich, he welcomed us, and we actually got to ride the circuit. There are about 10 strategic tram stops located in the visitor district. And so we got to see where each stop was and what the visitor would experience. We didn't actually get off at each stop, but we could certainly get a sense of how easy it is to get around and visit Ocracoke.
As I understand it, that's free. They don't charge.
It is. It's free, and I believe, Nancy, were there 2 or 3 trams? Three trams that are rotating, so you really hardly ever would have to wait, more than maybe 5 or 10 minutes for the tram.
How long was the journey between Hatteras and Ocracoke?
It was an hour. What a very pleasant ride. Now, it was a gorgeous day, and the captain spoke to us. He had a microphone, and he told us that some days it can get a little choppy, and he wasn't going to say it was smooth sailing every day, but it's very comfortable, very comfortable.
This project is a tourist boat that goes from one time from Edenton to Elizabeth City. It won't be going to all of those places in one day, so it'll be scheduled like buses do?
Yes, and the plan is eventually to have, more than one, so that you could do different routes, but, yeah. we just wanted to show you the visitors kind of the holding area where you would wait undercover. That roofed structure, open air, is where if you're waiting for the passenger ferry after you've had a great day in Ocracoke and you're waiting to get on the ferry, they have a nice, safe, clean place for you to wait outside, out of the sun. And that actually is built on Park Service property, and that is one of their partners. So they're fortunate that Ocracoke has a great partner, a federal partner that has money. So I think that was helpful. There's a picture of one of the, traditional ferries with the car service. And so what we learned, infrastructure is going to be so important. You need to have a comfortable waiting area, a sheltered place for the visitors to wait, a ticket sales transaction area, restrooms, and a beautiful view. Of course, we know how important hospitality is, but we saw it at its best on this trip. The ferry division personnel, from the ticket sales gal to the people that helped escort us onto the ferry, to the captain and the mates on the ship, were very welcoming. And then the welcoming committee in Ocracoke, they were terrific, as you would expect, and as I know our folks would be here. The tram shuttle, 10 stops throughout the visitors district, and then 2 or 3 trams constantly running. And we saw it, and we know it, and this is how I think Edenton and Chowan County has been successful in the past and will continue to be successful in the future, is through partnerships. We will have to work with our business community, work with state historic sites, work with the Edenton Historical Commission. But we know if the program gets up and running that we have the infrastructure and the capability to provide a great experience for visitors who want to come see us via the passenger ferry. The next steps, we heard from Representative Goodwin that he's working to secure the use of the ferry in the Albemarle Sound after it finishes with the season in Ocracoke, kind of a trial run or testing the waters, so to speak. He's also hosting, and I believe it's been scheduled, a group of legislators to come to Hatteras and actually ride the passenger ferry, for them to experience it. And then he is working on identifying funding. He says, he has told us that the funding that would be used to help kickstart the program will absolutely not come from funds that support existing transportation projects. And we asked him, and Mayor Pro Tem Biggs asked him back in January when we first met with him before he was sworn in, asked Representative Goodwin, do we need to try and raise money locally to help pay for a feasibility study for this project? And he said, absolutely not. He said, it's been studied, and if there's going to be any appropriation from the North Carolina General Assembly, a comprehensive feasibility study will be conducted by the North Carolina General Assembly's Fiscal Research Division. And he has repeated that. He has said that at other meetings. And so we stopped asking him, are you sure we don't need to raise any money? And as a matter of fact, at the field trip, he said, now, I've not asked any of you all for money, have I? We said, no, sir. So he's pressing forward. He's still in his rookie term, but he is learning the ropes and has assured us that he's going to be preparing to introduce legislation that would provide funding for a project. Now, not sure when that's all going to happen, but he's obviously doing all of his homework, all of the legwork, so that when the time is right, he'll be ready. So we're going to, with council's endorsement, we want to continue to be an active participant with the advisory board, and then also be supportive of Representative Goodwin in his efforts. And you all know, you've talked to him, but his experience as the director of the ferry division is extremely valuable with this project. I mean, he knows the ins and outs of the ferries, of the waterways, of everything that is going to be needed in order for this project to be successful. So that kind of ends the slideshow. Nancy, did you want to add anything? Or?
The only thing with this right now, because it is kind of in the infancy and everything, they are making changes, you know, like if you take the passenger ferry and then you say, well, you know, it would work better if it was a little later or whatever. They were already changing the time that they leave Ocracoke because people want to have dinner and then go back to Hatteras. And, you know, and then in the morning they're changing that a little bit. People don't want to leave Hatteras quite as early. So, you know, they're trying to listen to what everybody wants and kind of, you know, do some things that way. So it's good that they're taking care of all that now, and we'll learn a lot from that as well as they go along. But it was a great experience.
And I'm sure that the bicycle rentals and the golf cart rentals are going through the roof down there.
And a lot of bicycles take the ferry over and back.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
They said that you had to reserve a golf cart far in advance.
I'm sure.
They think they have 150
Have 150 golf carts?
golf carts down there now.
Oh, I'm sure. Gee, I would have thought it was more than that.
But we saw on our ferry, a number of people brought their bikes and they have a space on the ferry for them. So. But it was really pleasant, and we were trying to get back home because it had been a long day, and so we hopped a ride on the regular ferry, and that was just so unattractive, so uncomfortable.
Like a barge.
It was. And trying to get to the restroom, and I bumped into rearview mirrors as I was walking, and then they put us up in this galleyway, and it was just not the way to travel.
Right.
And so it was good for us to see that as well. But where the passenger ferry docks now is right in the heart of the great park. I mean, all of Ocracoke is wonderful, but you don't have that long drive from where the ferry normally turns. So anyway, it's going to be great for our friends in Dare County, and hopefully we can borrow their infrastructure for a couple weeks and test it out here and generate more support for our project.
Well, I can't think of two better representatives that we could have sent. All right, and the second item we have on our list tonight is the resolution strengthening critical drainage and water quality infrastructure. The Albemarle RC&D Council adopted a resolution and requests local governments consider adoption as well. And the resolution seeks to bring attention to regional drainage and water quality issues. And it's certainly timely given the recent report and update that we received last week from the Chowan Edenton Environmental Group. So, Reverend Poole, if you agree, we'll send that on to full council. Okay. And the third item is a grant agreement with the NCDEQ, a grant stormwater improvement. If you will recall, earlier this spring, we approved a submittal of an application for funding from DEQ to install underground drainage improvements on the town's property on East Eden Street. And this project will help improve water quality by filtering out nutrients in the stormwater, as well as providing additional storage capacity for stormwater during heavy rain events, and thereby reducing backup at the stormwater pump station. The grant will provide $95,000 and the town will match that amount. So that is a total match, Emery, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and again, Reverend Poole, if you agree, we'll send that to full council.
I agree.
Okay. All right, and the last item we have is the town has applied for a $25,000 grant for the NCDEQ, this same stormwater feasibility study, which we committed to matching with another $25,000 for a stormwater feasibility study. This study will focus on the east side of town. It will identify possible improvements to help improve the drainage and reduce flooding. And again, we'll send that to full council if that's okay with you. Okay. All right, and that's all we have, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That's some interesting stuff that'll be forthcoming, for sure. Next committee to meet tonight is the Utilities Committee, and that's chaired by Councilman Bond, please, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got two items tonight. Water system assessment inventory grant. I'm going to ask Boss Lady, could you help me with that one?
Sure. This grant, the council reviewed back in March, I believe, an application to DEQ, and this would provide $150,000 to help fund an assessment and inventory of our water system. We'll create all sorts of GIS and data files and really good information that will help Corey and his team. And then it will also produce information that will help guide the council in making planning decisions regarding investment of funds for future capital improvements and repair and replacement. So we recommend approval of the grant agreement. We're excited about it.
Okay.
We've applied, this is the third time. We got turned down the first two times, so we're excited to
Third time's a charm.
Hope so. If it's all right with the rest of the committee, Mayor, we'll send that up to the full council. Our last item is a renovation and upgrade to the water treatment plant. Mr. Corey, help me out, sir.
Well, I'm sure this has been a hot topic of discussion in and around town recently, at least since the end of the first quarter. So thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. Would like to go through just an update on our water treatment plant renovations and kind of just the status of where we are and what the timeline is up until this point and then what our projections are going forward, as well as provide some photos of kind of where we are. So if we look at the current project timeline, things really got, the ball really got rolling back in February when we received the award for construction. Since that time in March, we had the contract executed March 11th, and then the contractor was all given the notice to proceed 4 days later on March 15th. Since that time, as far as all the engineering submittals and the contractor submittals and the vendor submittals, we're about 75% complete. Most of that has been submitted and approved. And more recently, for instance, one of the most recent submittals was our electrical submissions. We worked with Stroud Engineering and made final improvements or recommendations for all the electrical. At this time, the engineering firm and the contractor have both mobilized. The contractor has completed all the demolition at Beaver Hill. They have also completed all the interior painting on the structure prior to any of the additions to the building or any of the vessels or piping that will be coming forth in the immediate or near future. We have approved all of the electrical plans, fixtures, conduit, any hardware. One thing that I did want to note here is that for some of the interior lighting as well as the exterior lighting, we did try to go with more energy efficient LED type lighting to really kind of help with some of the day-to-day just general utility costs as far as being in and out, motion sensors to turn stuff on so they're not left on. I think that was the only change that I made recently, was for some of the overhead lighting. At this time, the town, particularly the electric department, has made all the connections to replace some of the old hardware that was there. Bud was able to get those guys out fairly quickly once the contractor had mobilized and was on site and began the demo work. And we've set up everything, one for the building and two for the engineering firm. They have one of those Connex boxes for an office there, so we're actually able to meet on site. There's power there for those guys, as well as the electrical contractor can now begin tying in the utilities electric to the actual structure electric. We have submitted change orders to the application for the USDA for the building addition, which will be our electrical room, as well as our SCADA system. That happened within, I'd say, the last 3 weeks. The town engineers and contractor met this past Tuesday on our SCADA system, and the contractor and the vendor will be working through some of the hardware additions that we would like to see in one of those change orders.
Corey, can I just interrupt for 1 minute? I
Yes.
just wanted to remind the council that the bids came in lower than what the budget was. So we had extra funding, and we asked USDA, we said, you know, we have this other project, the SCADA system, that was going to be funded through another loan. Can we add this to the project through a change order?
Yes.
And they said yes. So it's kind of it's going to be good because we're going to have the SCADA system a lot sooner than what we had anticipated.
Yes.
And it's because of the fact that the bids came in
Yes.
lower.
Yes. And that was a pleasant surprise for everyone. The town had taken upon itself to really do a lot of the legwork with vendors as far as making the right selection, what's the best fit for the improvements we were making. And we were very fortunate that USDA allowed us to tack that on to this project. And that was fairly recent, last week actually, last Tuesday. And then also just kind of day to day, the engineering inspector is there and the contractor is receiving different hardware and equipment every day, every week. And so I think we're in really good shape up until this point. If we look at our projected timelines, that we anticipate to begin production at Beaver Hill Water Treatment Plant on or before October 15th, and that's the current milestone that we're working towards. We're hoping it'll be a little sooner than that. We're going to continue to push things forward. We should have substantial completion of Beaver Hill, including these change orders that we just previously discussed, around November 10th. And we anticipate the substantial completion of the Freemason water treatment plant around January of 2020. These changes are as a result of the change orders that we've been working through. So a couple photos here just to kind of show. I know that there's been a lot of people through the cemetery, and I always kind of wondered what that structure was. It's a water treatment facility. We had a very funny story. The contractor
Not a mausoleum, huh?
thought someone asked, "Where's the remains?" I said, "Well, in front of you, because this is a water treatment plant." But a lot of people had thought that this is actually part of the cemetery, but it is actually one of our water treatment plants. And this is photos from this past week of the exterior. The building has been gutted. Most of the structural changes have been made. as far as making sure things are up to standard for when they do the interior. Here's a shot of where the floor has been removed, where the most of the piping and the conduit for the electrical will be routed underneath the floor. You know, you may ask, well, why are you adding on to this building? Well, one of the things that really came up was a safety concern back when the plant was actually out of commission. And so in order to prevent any type of future safety concerns, it made sense to have that structure added for the electrical controls and the actual electric for the building to be separate from a water plant. So here is where an existing window is to the rear of the building, and we'll be adding an electrical and MCC room on the back side. And I have a rendering just to kind of give you an idea of how that will look. It will match the current facade of the building. It will be completely at the rear of the existing structure, but this is the side from your 17 bypass side looking towards the building. I guess that would be your north side of the building. And this will be the addition, which will be another exit. So we have two for the structure, and then there will be an interior wall here that will house all the electrical control for everything inside the plant. Water and electricity do not, you know, meet. Yeah, very well. So we opted to have that at the rear of the building. That's where we are. Any questions or comments?
When was that building built, existing? 40s, earlier?
I think it's like in the mid-50s, but I'd have to verify.
And Corey, I guess this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
According to your report, does this report have anything to do with maybe in February we have good water to drink?
The target now is we will be producing we'll be producing compliant water starting in October, and that is where we will kind of fine-tune the process. And moving forward, when you look at some of the notices that the public receives, the way the state calculates violation is a rolling average. So even though we may still receive 1 or 2 quarters notice, in the future after the plant's online, we will actually be producing non-violate, you know, water that's completely free of the TTHMs that the violation, you know, caused all this. So we will actually produce clean, non-TTHM water at that time. But customers may still receive a notice because of the rolling average. It's calculated based on 4 quarters, and if you have 2 quarters that are still out and 2 quarters that are now in, you could potentially still be over the limit that they are monitoring. And even though you have clean water, you would still get a notice until that average dropped.
Right. Now, I'm concerned, we've been getting letters, the same statements for about 5 years or more. And we've been leaner or being given extra time to get it straight. Because the state, they're the ones that check the water and say it's safe to drink. And I believe we've been trying to work on this for about 5 years to fix that problem.
Yes.
But are we fixing it?
Yes, the renovations at Beaver Hill, once Beaver Hill is online, we will actually shut down our Freemason facility to start the renovations, and then the water system will be filled with compliant TTHM-free drinking water. And so this is the fix for that problem.
Okay.
Corey, will we notice a difference in the color of the water and the taste?
I think that there'll be just a little bit of chemistry that will change as far as the, I guess, just the plumbing within the homes and within the structure itself. I don't think you'll really notice, I don't think it'll be noticeable. I think there'll be a lot of flushing at first to try to get things to kind of equal out. But I would think that it would be as noticeable as if we had an emergency and had to tie in with the county, because they have a different process that they use, and it's almost negligible of a difference. And I think that's where we'll be. I think no one will know, we'll be able to see the difference.
Any more questions for Corey? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent job. If it's all right with my committee members, Mayor, we propose to send that on up to council.
Yes, sir. Good.
That'll do us, Mayor.
All right. Thank you all very much. That completes our agenda for tonight as well. In parting, I'll just make one comment on one of the actions we're going to take in the future. I served a couple of terms on the League of Municipalities Board of Directors, and every time a storm issue would affect eastern North Carolina, we would hear from different counties, and they all were sending the same message collectively over time, and that is that some were saying it's been more than 50 years since these ditches and creeks have been dredged, so that waters like storm waters can flow more freely back in and out. And they were saying that 50–75% of some of what used to be good draining conduits for storm water are filled with silt from the washout from the upstream when the water comes out of the woods and swamps into those creeks. So I'm really excited about that, because I think it'll have a very positive impact on all of us who live in waterfront communities. I'm happy to hear we're taking action, because I know as you go up and down the coast, we being in the northernmost part, it's not peculiar to us. Every community that fronts the water has the same problem. So that's good stuff. All right. Thank you all again very much. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir.